Good afternoon, Dr. Barbara Johnson, and how are you today?
Thank you. I'm fabulous. I'm very happy to be with you. And it's my birthday. So I've just had the most wonderful carrot cake and yummy, yummy chocolate drink with a very good friend of mine celebrating my birthday. So I'm very happy. Thanks. I'm full on carrot cake.
Thanks for the invite. Carrot cake is my favorite. So happy birthday for today. And I cannot believe you are 22 today.
22.
And Barbara, today is the fourth week on Wimp2Warrior. And tell us a little bit about Wimp2Warrior. What's it all about?
Thank you. So, Wimp2Warrior is the book that works through the 8 dimensions of life. It goes hand in glove with Yes, Yes, You, 10 stepping stones to get on with your life. Wimp2Warrior is about the 8 dimensions to create a life that is that of balance, life that is looking like that, and overlay that with meaning and purpose and fulfillment, and we get a model that works into self reflection, self care, self love, so that we can understand, Ron, what's percolating within energy from the gut, energy from the subconscious, energy from our conditioning. Our mindset is impacted horrendously by non-subconscious programming. So this is the process that I found worked for me, developed by me through the chaos and the craziness of an abusive marriage, leaving that marriage and having to find a way to stand on my own 2 feet again in a place of strength and a place of responsibility and a place of not relapsing back into what I'd already known for the previous 25 years, in fact.
Thanks, Barbara, for that. And guests, this book is not about just reading. It's a book to study, and it will help you out. Yes, yes, you as well as Wimp2Warrior. And just make sure that you've got a pen and write down all the do's and the don'ts about your own life and apply the book, Wimp2Warrior. And chapter 4 is quite an interesting chapter, and that speaks about habits, / currency, energy, money, and relationships. So, what is the difference between living by intention versus living by default habits? And how does this shape a person's life in the right direction, Barbara?
Wow. Okay, so really good question. So intention is about how am I going to show up today? So here's the beginning of intention for my day today. How am I going to live into today so that I know, plan, action, appreciate, tick the boxes, and feel fulfilled by the time I go to sleep tonight? Intention is a process that challenges the default thinking, the conditioned thinking. The conditioned thinking takes us into a process of negativity, of smallness, of not standing in our own power, not taking responsibility. It is a place of excuses, denial, blaming, and justification. It is a place of pulling the duvet over your head and not getting out of bed in the morning. But living, Ron, by intention is about responsibility. It is about knowing that we stand on the cusp of creativity for each and every day, where we can positively self-talk, journal, know what it is that we want to achieve in the day. It is about the intention of who will I become today? How will I show up today? Consciously now, in this time, this moment, so that I live into the best me today.
And Barbara, what's so important is, and habits is such a wonderful thing if you know how to abide by it. But the key here is we love breaking habits. But the key, what I've figured out with working with yourself, all we have to do is increase our habits, as I say, atomic habits, increase it by 1% every day. And if you look what you've achieved after 10 days, after 20 days, after a year, you've increased by a percentage because you double your percentage every day and you'll start seeing your journey. And it's not just about chasing goals. It's just changing how you stand up in the morning, what I've learned from you, and having these conversations of being the better person of self. Because let the baggage go. As I said to a friend, or one of my clients yesterday, it says, you depend on so many friends because you want to fit in. But you realize friends and family is there to leverage from you to make their life better. But you'll never make your own life better because you're trying to fit in. But as soon as you change that, you become a better person yourself. As soon as I let go, I can see the opportunities where I can grow myself going forward. And through Yes, Yes, You, as well as Wimp2Warrior, this is a key for me on habits by bringing out the better in me. And that's why I say, why don't you download the book from or purchase a book from Amazon? The links will be in the page in Amazon, as well as not in Amazon, in social media, as well as on YouTube. And go read these books. Which brings me to the next point, Barbara, is why do most people struggle to change their habits, even when they know what they should be doing? And I think that's so key, to struggle to change. And I think, I'm going to do it tomorrow. Why don't you just do it now?
Exactly, that procrastination, right? It creeps in. So I think the bottom cause, because we've got lots of symptoms, we've got lots of excuses, we've got lots of tomorrows. I think the issue is that we want the new habit, but we cannot sustain the new habit. It is not grounded within ourselves simply because we have yet to understand the mindset of who we want to become because of this habit. So the bottom line of it, Ron, is identity. What is the identity? Who do I want to become? The introspection, the reflection, the calmness, the peace of being and becoming, setting ourselves up to succeed, is where the issue lies, because we can't see ourselves yet doing that which we want to be doing, simply because we have not yet understood that we need to change within, change our identity, because we are wanting to grow, because we are wanting to see the benefit of this system, this idea, this new habit. And until we get that piece, nothing really changes, because it then is a loop of, I'm trying to do this thing versus this is who I am. This is who I want to become. It is the being that creates the growth, and the longevity and the sustainability of the new habit.
And Barbara, because with having the different habits, and it's everything, a bad habit is just as good as a good habit. It's the same energy. It's a choice that you have to make to change. I mean, you're using, it's the same as it's harder to be poor than to be wealthy, because you have to fight the creditors. But if you start working through a process of being wealthy or creating the habits of saving and helping people to grow, it's going to be easier. And I said to a person this morning, in one of my consultations, life is easy now of having fun because you know how to spend. I'm just using financial literacy as an example. But when you get old, it becomes hard. So rather have a hard life now and an easy life when you retire. It's the same habits that you have to do with your finances. It's the same habit as your health. So if you have an easy life when you're young and having McDonald's and hamburgers and sweets, it's easy. But as soon as you get old, you feel like you've been sponsored by Creepy Crawly because you're not enjoying your pension. You're not enjoying this because you never had a balanced life because of habits. And if you choose the right habits, and that's how you can start changing. Which brings me to the third point, which speaks about currency, the dimension 5, energy and money. You describe currency as more than just money. Can you explain the relationship between energy and financial outcomes?
So, for me, energy is prime. Money is secondary. Energy is about the identity, the becoming, the wanting to leave a legacy. It is a means to create. It is a means to build a vision and move towards. Now, money is a form of energy. Money is the numbers on the bank statement or the paper in the pocket. Money is secondary to energy. Whilst it is still energy, it is secondary to energy. Energy, identity, we are with money more than money itself. Because if we have a negative connotation of McDonald's, blah, 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 spend, 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 that energy relates into the action of the money in the pocket or the numbers on the bank statement. We have to be careful of the energy that creates procrastination, poor decisions, ultimately financial stress. We get caught up in scams simply because we choose incorrectly. We don't understand that scamming is also an energy, a high level energy, but a low energy result. It is an energy that challenges us to wake up and think differently about who we are becoming in the face of the energy of money. So the better our energy, our openness, our reflection, our deeper understanding of self, the better our chances are to think better. The less emotions we will get involved with. Because here's the thing, Ron, the more the emotion incapacity. And because of that, the results are impacted. So we're looking for high energy, due diligence, so that we can get better results.
And Barbara, you touched on so much because especially when it comes to finance. It takes away a lot of energy if you're into the wrong mindset. And one of the stories is, like, I take, for instance, myself in 1997 when I went through a difficult time. Most of my energy was focused on negative energy. How am I going to approach the courts? How am I going to approach the debt collectors? How am I going to approach the lawyers? How am I going to approach the magistrate? My focus was never on my business, because 90% of my focus was on negativity. But as soon as I changed my energy and says, I know Wednesdays I have to be in court, I had 6 more days to focus on my business and focus on only one day on how to handle the debt. As soon as I changed that energy, I started to work better and start paying my debts. I didn't have to worry for the end of the month, when we still had Coke bottles, which was glass, that you could still sell it for money to get a loaf of bread. I had to change that energy levels. And this is what's so good about these 2 books, Yes, Yes, You and Wimp2Warrior, is how to overcome that 8 dimensions. And especially when you spoke about journaling, and when you start putting the journaling in of your negative energy and your positive energy, you'll probably find that there's more on the positive side than the negative side. And this is what's so great about these books. Which brings me to question 4. Currency, dimensions of energy and money. How does mismanagement on personal energy impact the productivity, income, and overall life satisfaction?
Well, Ron, if our energy is not managed well, everything suffers, because the energy of emotion robs us of clarity, of productivity, of emotional stability, and thinking about earning capacity. People often try to fix the financial problem without addressing the energy leaks. Like, for instance, poor sleep, or a lack of boundaries, or burnout. We have to find a way to fix the energy, to restore the energy, to protect the energy, because it's in the protection through boundaries and good sleep and proper eating and thinking positively and thinking in a direction of action that we get to have a different attitude. We give ourselves a chance. Yes, again, we're talking about journaling. We give ourselves a chance of understanding a new perception that could be possible. We get a chance to recondition the way we think, because when you journal, Ron, like you know, we get to see what it is that's sitting in our brains. We get to see that the financial and the performance issues are not what we think they are, but what is surfacing out of the subconscious mind, out of the conditioning and patterning of our youth.
And Barbara, there's one key ingredient what I've learned through this whole journey is on mismanagement. And the mismanagement is not paying yourself first. If you figure out how to pay yourself first, and tell the credit providers choose a finger, tell the debt collectors to choose a finger, and start managing yourself first. Pay yourself first, and making sure that your fridge and your cupboards are full of food. Stomach full, nice sleep, family happy. As soon as you start overcoming that, instead of having empty cupboards and phone calls, you'll always have a bad night's sleep. But as soon as you start managing that by paying yourself first, And I'm not talking just about money. I'm talking about waking up, go for that walk, clear your mind, start with gratitude. All of a sudden, the negativity through gratitude will fall away because you're starting a new day. As I say to people, I don't have bad days. I have good days and very, very good days.
Mhm.
I don't fail. I don't fail. I learn and I grow because failure is a stepping stone to success. Doesn't matter what you do. Don't let that form part of the negativity, but create that habit of what you made wrong to make right, because that's how you grow. Which brings me to point 5, which is relationships. What role do relationships play either in accelerating or sabotaging personal growth?
Oh my word. Relationships can either make you or break you. Relationships, as in associations with people, with family members, with friends, we end up unconsciously mimicking the people that we work with, live with. Our mannerisms, our language becomes very much that of the people, the relationships that we're having. So relationships act as a mirror of who I am or who I am in danger of becoming. The relationship is the type of person, the energy of what's happening around me and seeping in to me. So, for instance, if you are in a relationship, a group of people who swear a lot, it is too easy for us to mimic that. We are wanting to fit in. We are wanting to be liked. We become people pleasers. So what do? We copycat that which is in the environment. That can be the wrong way round for our growth. Because if we find ourselves swearing, cussing, blasphemy, there is too much of a way forward in the negative. We are not conscious. We are not standing in the value of self by associating with those people. And you know, Ron, that's a very hard place to recognize because we as human beings, we want to feel like we belong. But
And
we have
all,
to be careful what we belong to.
yeah, and it's all in, as I say. And I was thinking, I'm trying to think what his name, Joe Dispenza said, your body is made up with cells. It's you're the only one who can heal it because the brain doesn't distinguish a bad cell or good cell. Your brain is a hard drive. Your body is the internet. What you feed it in is going to be how you're going to feel the next day or what's going to happen. You know, so you have to feed positive energy, which brings me to the point on relationship. And one of the relationships I'll say is start with a relationship on self and money. If you've got a bad habit, anything around that is going to fall. And I said to this client yesterday, she earns quite a good salary. And I said to her, why are you spending so much money on clothes and holidays? I want to fit in. But you can't even qualify for a home loan because he's sitting with, sitting with a five-figure salary and she hasn't got money to pay for her loan or getting a bond because she wants to fit in. Rather drive a small car that people don't know what you've got and build your wealth. But there's a key ingredient with relationship, Barbara, which I learned. Show me your friends and I'll tell you what your paycheck is.
Yep.
You know, work with 5 people who's wealthy, you'll become the 6th one. Exactly what you said. If you want to fit in and there's 5 smokers, you never smoked in your life, you're going to smoke. There's a 90% chance that you're going to be a smoker. So I would rather be a loner than fit into a negative crowd and build myself up with people like yourself and the network, because I know what my network and net worth will be with working with the right people. Then on my question 6, which is the last question, Barbara, is how can someone begin to shift from draining relationships to empowering and aligned connections?
Oh, this is a hard one, because very often there are relationships in our immediate families that don't work for us. This is a place of wanting to be different from the norm, i.e., family in this case, in this example. It could be your company, it could be your country, it could be your friends, your social circle. But it starts with becoming aware, Ron. You mentioned smoking. 5 people smoking around you. If you become aware that smoking has now become the norm in this group, the question then is this the identity I want to take on? If this is not the identity I want to take on, we have to learn to stand in the self-value, in the self-worth, put in place boundaries, learn how to say yes, maybe, or no. It's one of the hardest things for us as human beings is to say no, Ron, because then it puts us in a very vulnerable position of not being liked, of not fitting in, etc. When we learn to say no, we stand on our values, we show up in our identity, we choose, we decide, and therefore we have results that are different. We have values and we have standards, and we know for ourselves what we will do, what we won't do, what I can control, what I can't control. Will I stay? Will I leave? Because if we don't have values for ourselves, we don't have self-worth for ourselves, we become a doormat.
And Barbara, I found this question I just posted to you, and the answers that you just given me reminds me of a story of myself. And I'd like to tell this story. When I mean, those days in school, dyslexia was showing that you are stupid, or ADD. I mean, I don't know anything about dyslexia. I mean, it's easier for me to read comics because I can read the pictures and I don't have to look at the writing because I'm a visual person. When I went to my first job, because I can work with my hands. But when I said I'm going to go into life assurance as a job, they said to me, Dutchman, you can't even read and write properly. How are you going to sell a policy? But my first year, I'd done my targets more than my annual income in my first month. But yeah, that's a key. Money took over because I wanted to fit in with my friends and family. But I realized the more I give ideas to them, the more they utilize ideas for themselves. Because later on in life, I was supporting 4 families because they're leveraging from me, because I feel I'm a goody two-shoes boy because I wanted to fit in. But when the pauper hits a fan, my family and friends weren't there for me. And this is what's important. As soon as I said no, and I moved on with my life, they moved away, but they always wanted something from me again. But I said, I will work with you only if you provide me with the following. I know I'm worth, what are you going to pay me? So sometimes, which brings me to the second point. A lot of us is trying to make money on cheap, selling ourselves cheap without knowing what our self-worth is. We're trying to fill our cupboards with baked beans instead of filling our cupboards with steak. It's your 20 Rand an hour is the same energy when we go back to question 3 on energy. It's the same amount of energy you're going to put in for 1,000 Rand an hour. But you're going to get a better client base, you're going to be a better person, you're going to leverage up. It's how you work with the energy by understanding no and say yes to the right people where you're going to fit in. And this is for me the most important part, is understanding the strength of self and saying, no, I know what I'm worth. When I was working for a company to make him rich, because I'm selling my time for his income, instead of taking that energy, working half the time and doubling my income because I know how to buy back my time, by putting the right energy in with building relationships with people like you, reading books like Wimp2Warrior, Yes, Yes, You, working with journaling, figuring out and creating a plan, which now generates me, I've got 8 revenue streams, which allows me to multiply in what I want to do by providing the energy. But it starts with the word no. And that's the easiest thing because no is also a sentence. So Barbara, on that note, would you like to say anything to the listeners and what is important for them, especially on this last question, how to leverage themselves to become a better person by applying habits as in chapter 4?
So Ron, there has to be a time where we are still and appreciative and planning and kind and acknowledging peacefulness within ourselves. It is just like the story of the aeroplane in a crash mode. If we do not put the oxygen on ourselves first, we cannot help other people. It is a fallacy. It's counterintuitive to what we are taught, but we are the ones to take self-care in order for us to be focused and strong and have clarity so that we can reach another 10 people sitting in the aeroplane with us. It is not the chaos. It is not the, oh, I should be. What if I don't fit in? It's not about anything other than first ourselves, because it is first ourselves strong so that we can assist others.
And Barbara, it is 100% right. And I want to leave the question to the listeners. And it says, show me your diary and I'll show you your procrastination. If you don't write things down and you don't plan, doesn't matter if it's your Wednesday to be in court and Thursday to change where you're going. Your diary will reflect who you are and what you want to achieve, even if it starts off with the morning with gratitude, breakfast, and lunch, and afternoon sleep. That's also okay, because I might sleep at 6 hours and make up my other 2 hours in the afternoon, or take time out. If you plan and you create your habits, 1% a day will give you 360% at the end of the year. So Barbara, thanks a lot. Be awesome. Enjoy your birthday. And we'll see you next week.
We will. Thank you, Ron. Thank you.